Everything that makes In Bruges click so well for me can be summed up in exactly one scene. Ken, following the command of his handler, is ordered to kill his partner in crime, Ray. Ken doesn't want to do this, but unfortunately, he has no choice. And as he walks up charged to take care of business, Ray pulls a gun to his head and Ken stops him. Ray gives Ken an out, and he refuses to let him take it. This scene builds a tense moment between two characters that you care about, seemingly resolves it with something that might be even more tragic, then upends that solution with our hitman preventing the suicide of someone that he is supposed to kill. And that contradiction—
oh my god. You were gonna kill me. Oh, you were gonna kill yourself?
—is really funny. But there's no laugh track here, because you care about what's gonna happen to these characters next, and what just happened here has completely changed the relationship between the two of them.
I wasn't gonna go through with it, right? You fucking looked like you were gonna go fucking through with it.
And because of that, Ken dedicates the rest of the film to the idea that the both of them can be redeemed for the crimes that they've committed. But let's back up to look at how we got here. When a job goes south, Ken and Ray both arrive in Bruges with orders to lie low from their employer, Harry. Ken finds a lot to love in this city. The art, the history, the architecture are all enough to capture his senses. But Ray will have none of it. All he sees in the city are the paintings that depict those convicted of evil, subjected to a torture for all eternity, serving as the justice for their actions. Somehow he's able to find the ugliest, sad dog on the planet in a city full of people that come in order to witness the last refuge of medieval Europe. And again, that's just so funny, because who hasn't been on a vacation where everyone is having fun except for that one mopey sack of shit? But like that instance of murderer turned suicide hotline receptionist, this isn't jokes for the sake of jokes. As we soon learn, this is the product of a job gone bad. Ken is experienced, but Ray is new to the life of a hitman. But Ken has never made a mistake, so tragic is Ray. This child was inadvertently killed by him as a result of the circumstances of his line of work. It was an accident, but it was also a consequence of the morally dubious decision that he made to become a hitman in the first place. And suddenly, all of Ray's dower gains a weight that we didn't know was there. But Ken is the one worth watching here. Just like Ray doesn't know how he can possibly address what he did, Ken has no idea how to address Ray in light of what has happened. One of the first things he tries is to bring it up.
Ray, I really don't like to say this.
You really don't like to say what?
If there's one thing Ken knows how to handle, it's confrontation. But unfortunately for him,
well, you know,
bring that up.
Ray doesn't give it to him. Instead, he folds like a paper towel. And the second thing he tries is to listen.
I killed a little boy. You keep bringing up fucking lollipop, man.
You didn't mean to kill a little boy.
I know I didn't mean to. But because of the choices I made and the course that I put into action, a little boy isn't here anymore. And that's all because of me. He's dead because of me. And I'm trying to get my head around it, but I can't.
This material is heavy. Ray has done something horrible and knows it. And he's doubting how he can ever live with that. Ken doesn't have the answers either. But in this moment, he believes that Ray shouldn't have to lose his life for what he did. He can't quite put into words why he feels this way, but he doesn't sit idly by while Ray floats the idea.
Maybe I go away.
Don't even think like that.
That night, Ray goes off on a date with Chloe, a beautiful Belgian film producer. And I'll say the whole thing is an exercise in authenticity, as Ray fearlessly says and does the first thing that comes into his head.
So what do you do, Raymond?
I shoot people for money.
What kinds of people?
Priests, children, you know, the usual.
That makes for a lot of funny dialogue.
Oh, tell me, how's Sane?
That's for John Lennon, you Yankee fucking cunt. A bottle! Now don't bother.
But the whole affair is mired in tragedy. Ray's fearless because he thinks that he's worthless. And Chloe's not a film producer. She's a drug dealer who robs tourists after they take her out on a nice date. But Ray's shameless behavior is endearing enough to her that she decides not to rob him. And Chloe's able to make Ray feel like he might actually be worth something. That is, until her partner in crime shows up anyway, and Ray realizes that he had been duped when she agreed to go on that date with him in the first place. And so, a night that begins with Ray touching his face, trying to feel something in it, finds hope and then finds that hope dashed, confirming what he suspected back on the bridge with Ken.
Oh, I just knew someone like you would never like someone like me. Oh, God, I just knew.
What do you mean someone like me?
You know, someone nice.
Meanwhile, Ken stays in waiting for a call from the boss. He's expecting to hear about a job, and he gets one, but it's not who he expects. They're not in Bruges hunting a target. They're in Bruges to give Ray one last vacation before he is put out to pasture. But
If I'd grown up on a farm and was retarded, Bruges might impress me, but I didn't, so it doesn't.
doesn't really work out like that. Because Ray and Harry are very different people. What this tells us about Harry is he's someone that could enjoy a vacation after assassinating someone. He's a man of principle, able to sleep just fine at night running an organized underworld of hitmen, so long as those on the receiving end of the barrel deserve it. And kids never deserve it. Harry would no doubt call a hit on himself if he thought that he deserved it. It's how he's able to reconcile with the fact that he's killed people. Ken's approach is different. He'll do the job, but he's not one to follow it up with a pint and a prostitute. He's quiet. He doesn't revel in a sense of justice like Harry does. We don't know a lot about the history between Ken and Harry, but what we do know is that Ken's wife was murdered, and Harry killed the guy who did it. And as he recounts the story, and as we see in conversations later, he's so grateful to Harry for what he did for him. But he knows that it couldn't bring his wife back. Justice is something that comes after the crime, and the tragedy left in its wake doesn't go anywhere. So now Ken has orders to take care of Ray, and Ray has had his worth confirmed. And that brings us here, where Ken is given the choice between following the directive from his employer who once killed on his behalf, and giving a second chance to someone who doesn't want it. And he chooses the latter. Why? Because Ken believes in redemption.
I have to reconcile myself with the fact that yes, I have killed people.
They may have deserved it, and for Harry that's reason enough, but Ken knows that what he's done is wrong. So if he can believe in redemption for himself, he has to believe in redemption for someone who clearly knows that what they've done is wrong. Someone who made the same mistake that he could have. Someone who is perhaps even more disturbed by their actions than he would have been. In this choice, Ken has redeemed himself. And you can see him walking lighter like a cloud has been lifted from his shoulders. For the first time in a long time, he knows that he did the right thing. Harry doesn't understand this concept one bit. He's baffled Ken would do something so boneheaded when he should know that that's just gonna get him shot.
He put a loaded gun to his head this morning. I stopped him.
This gets fucking worse.
Harry plays out the entire thing like he would if he were sitting across from an amateur who defied his orders. But Ken can't be intimidated here. His choice is the consequence for all of his actions. It's born out of his need to reconcile within himself all the bad that he's ever done. So of course he's able to follow through with the consequences of a choice that gave him redemption.
Ken, stop messing about, please. Pick up your gun. I know I'm going to beat you anyway, because you're a spaz, but...
Harry, I'm totally in your debt. Things that have gone between us in the past. I love you unreservedly for all that. For your integrity. For your honor. I love you. The boy had to be let go. The boy had to be given a chance. And to do that, I had to say, fuck you. And fuck what I owe you. And fuck everything that's gone on between us. And that's what I had to do. But I'm not fighting you. And I accept totally everything you've got to do. I accept it. Totally.
Meanwhile, Ray is arrested for hitting a Canadian.
You hate the Canadian.
I hate the Canadian.
That's him. That's the motherfucker.
And is brought back to the one place where he could not be less safe.
We're taking you back to Bruges.
Brilliant.
Chloe bails him out, and the two catch a meal under the nose of the man who wants him dead. When Harry realizes this, he gets into a struggle with Ken, shoots him, and races down the steps to kill his target. Ray has no warning. He'll be defenseless considering that Ken took his gun from earlier. So Ken uses every inch of life that he has in him to climb the steps of this tower so he can throw himself from the top.
His wings at the dawn of day.
Do you want to know why I love this movie? There's just so much emotion, some of it overt, some of it subdued. It's written with so much density, nearly every line of dialogue is referenced later. Its soundtrack is brilliant, the camera work pulls you into these characters at their most intimate moments. But that's not enough. I love it because in this moment, I couldn't be more invested in Ray's escape, given the significance of Ken's sacrifice. And when Ray goes to take the gun Ken jumped off the building to give him, it's broken. Because things never go quite as planned, but it seems so obvious that it was inevitable in hindsight. And I laughed. I laughed uncontrollably while a character I was so attached to died. In Bruges isn't afraid to make you sad or uncomfortable, but it's courageous in its ambition to take it one step further. This film doesn't build humor out of making fun of its characters. It's built out of the presumption that you are invested in them. And isn't that the moral of the story here? To find worth, to care. Ray is able to escape and he runs into the film set where he first met Chloe and a racist dwarf named Jimmy. Harry shoots Ray just as Ray shot the priest. And just like Ray, hits an unintended target. Jimmy's head is blown to bits. So Harry, who believes he just killed a boy, takes his own life. In these last moments, Ray sees an opportunity for redemption. He will find the mother of the boy he killed and ask for her judgment. It won't undo the tragedy, but just as Ken is forever in his debt to Harry for taking care of the man who murdered his wife, Ray can offer justice for the mother whose boy he killed. Whatever consequence, he can accept, so that he may redeem himself before he dies, just like Ken was able to. And it's worth it to escape Bruges and to move on having reconciled the past. Thanks for watching.